In this step, now we're going to start setting panels. And as the men set the panels, I'll go through kind of some of the code issues of why we've built them the way we did. And we talk about code, those are building code issues. So we're going to set this full log panel over on this corner first. Again, each panel has handles on it. Those will be removed once we do the finishing process. Now, again, we talked about the building size being in 4-foot increments. So your foundation is going to be in that same 4-foot increment, or your wood floor deck is going to be in that same instance. So we have set a panel of 6 logs. Al is just going to You're just going to put it in just so it holds in place. We're going to talk about the screwing pattern or the nailing pattern here in subsequent slides. But what I want to do is get a couple of panels set here so you can see how fast it goes. So the first panel has been set. He's going to come inside and put a stabilizing screw on the inside, holding the plate down. Now these he's going to put at an angle, a little bit of an angle, so he doesn't deform the insulated panel. Okay, now that'll hold that panel from moving. The next thing we do is we're going to put the corner piece in. These are solid they're called 4x4s, but actually their dimensions 3.5 by 3.5. Now, before he did that, cut yourself a 6.5-inch block. The corners are going to sit 6.5 inches up off of the mud sill. Okay, we'll show you that a little later in the electric wiring portion of this. So we want to lift that up 6 inches. That gives us the ability to wire or take wires around the corner. Down at the bottom here, those are all slotted for wiring, but he's going to put that in with a couple of screws just to hold it in place. That becomes our vertical member, our vertical support at the corner. Okay, now we're ready to set the second panel. We start at the corner of a building, typically in our installation. So the corner gets us nice and square and started. So the men will bring the other lower panel over for this back corner. Now the building is set up so that we can install the panels from the inside. With these handles, 2 men can handle it. I'll get George out of the way a little bit and you'll see how the corners fit there. So we're nice and tight here, and Al is going to put a screw in that side there to hold that up. Make sure the panel is tight to the bottom log there. What Al did just there is to put a toenail screw in that pulled this corner tight with the panel. So he'll put another screw or 2 in there. Now we have a corner that is very structurally sound. Now we don't have to worry about the panels tipping over. So we got the first 2 panels set. That gives us our starting point. Okay, in our next step, we're going to put our upper panels on these 2 places. This is what we're calling a solid log wall corner, or a solid log wall. So let's grab an upper panel, guys, and get that on. Now we're going to show you how these nest. What we do before we set the second panel, or the top panel, is put a foam sealer between the panels. Now the reason we do that, in the introduction I talked to you about wood on wood joints. And what we're doing now is putting a seal between the 2 we have accounted for that seal thickness in our design so that when everything's stacked, it all fits. We do not factory apply these seals. Reason being, we don't want to get them torn up in shipment, so you need to place those on the job. We will send seal sealer will be included in your kit. So now we're ready to second panel, and what we have is an interlocking design so that the top OSB will slide down over the bottom frame here so that we eliminate air intrusion. So we're not letting air go straight through any joints. We're making the air work real hard to get around the joints, and once it hits the seal, it can't get into your building. So we're ready to set this panel. Again, you'll be able to set these from the inside. And that plywood will just nest in there about that quick. We want to just make sure we're over so that we're tight and these logs line up. Once we have that, we're set to go. The weight of this panel will squeeze that sill seal. Al will put a couple of stabilizers on the outside, making sure that the log corner post is tight to the panel. Now again, don't fasten those real securely now. We'll go through that in future steps. We just want to tack it now because we do want to be sure that everything's tight, top and bottom. What Al is going to do is just tie that log tight to each other by toenailing that together. Sometimes there's a little twist in your material. It won't be in the panels. Those will be exactly square. But some of these complementary members may have a little twist in them. So we're all set now. The last panel we're going to put in this sequence is going to be the complementary corner panel here. So we're all set to go. Now, if you put your level on this, this will be dead plumb, meaning that it's straight. Now, when you talk about level, you talk about, it could be plumb or level. Plumb is the horizontal. When we talk about plumb in our instructions, that's in the horizontal. When we talk about level, that's this way. So the vernacular, we use as best we can construction terms in our written instructions. That's the difference between the two, plumb, level. So when we're talking about vertical surfaces, they're plumb. So if your floor deck is level, and we talked about the floor deck in the opening slide, what I neglected to tell you, it's really important that that's level. Because if that's not level, then this won't be plumb, okay? Because if you're putting something in at an angle and you're putting something dead square on there, it won't be plumb. So how do we correct that? And it's very common in basements, it's very common in stem walls or where we're putting something on a concrete foundation. The mason didn't get the slab level or the mason didn't get the foundation level. That's where you use your mud sill and you shim that to level that, okay, level. Because if it's not level, if your floor deck's not level, your building isn't going to fit properly. It'll fit, but it won't fit properly. So we shim that. So that's an important part of the step. Try to make sure your mason gets your slab or your foundation level. When you put your floor deck on, that's the best time to shim it, to do whatever you have to do to get that thing level all the way around. It makes your job so much easier. So level and plumb, those are the two things. Now we're ready to set the last panel in this sequence, will be this other upper panel. So we've already put the sill seal on. Okay, the sill seal is, again, to give us an extra air intrusion barrier. Again, the inside handles make it pretty easy, to lift that panel. We designed these panels specifically in two-piece sets. Now the reason we did that is so that they're easier to handle. What Al is doing is just tapping that over. What he will do is put a tack in the bottom of the lower panel on the corner here, and that helps stabilize it. We want to secure the plywood to the bottom sill. That will keep that panel from tipping. Now he'll secure the corner of that to the corner side so that it won't go anyplace. In the next sequence, we're going to show how our vertical works. If you have any further questions, contact us at the information listed.